Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Miss Texas Show. It is Melissa Santana, your co-host, as always. Happy as always to be with you and have another great show. We have a wonderful guest today. Super excited to introduce. But of course, before I do that, I just want to formally introduce everyone to the show. So welcome to the Miss Texas Show, where we showcase life in Texas and beyond and highlight amazing survivors of traumatic events, family violence, sex trafficking, sexual abuse, and community leaders who share community resources. Under our segment, Military Time, we invite military and veterans who would like to share with us their experiences both during and after their military service. We run this segment in partnership with the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce. We also would like to invite those who have overcome traumatic events and would like to share and are not ready to help others. Under our Beauty for Ashes segment, we invite fellow pageant sisters, winners, nominees, artists, musicians, actors, models, and dancers, as well as survivors who are ambassadors for the cause to share with our audience their lives and the impact they have made. Our show runs twice a month, so if you would like to become a guest on our show, please email us at msusatexas@gmail.com. So that's MSUSATEXAS@gmail. Or you can message us on our Facebook, which is also at Ms. USA Texas, same spelling, on Facebook. You can also make a donation at www.hopepyxglobal.org to help us help more people. So with that being said, we definitely have, as mentioned, a wonderful guest by the name of Rania Wade. She is an entrepreneur, vice chair, and board member of Trinity Safe Haven, which is an organization created to support and empower victims of childhood sexual abuse. She is the CEO of Royal Treatment by Rania Beauty. The lash healer is no stranger to motivating herself to achieve her dreams. After overcoming molestation at the age of 3, aggravated sexual assault at the age of 13, divorce at the age of 26, domestic violence at the age of 28, delivering a premature baby at 10 weeks early, and discovering her lover had been unfaithful during that time, some would ask, how is this girl still standing? I'm definitely asking myself the same question, but her secret is God's grace as well as her mindset. So enjoy these words from her. I didn't go through all of that pain for it to amount to nothing more than more pain. I will find a way to make all of my trauma worth it. So know your why and your motivation will follow. But you guys don't have to just rest with just that quote, because we have the person here in the to share with us about herself. So Rania, we are super excited to have you. It's an honor, pleasure, all of that. And so first, can you just tell us about yourself? Who are you, your journey, got you here, a little bit about you.
Absolutely. I would love to. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for this opportunity just to share with you my story, and just share your presence. Your energy is amazing. I'm super excited to be able to talk to you today. But just a little bit about me. My bio pretty much explained it. I'm Rania. I am a pandemic mother. My daughter was born the day that the country was shut down. So that was extremely traumatic. And so I am no stranger to trauma. I am no stranger to having to overcome and continue to find a way to be positive and keep motivating myself, but then also being that strong person for other people as well. So I'm a member of a sorority. I am a Delta, so Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Shout out to them. But most of all, most important, I am here today because I decided that I can't be quiet any longer. I feel like so many people, I keep hearing stories about children being assaulted. I keep hearing stories of women in college being assaulted. And the fact that it's something that I also experienced at the early age of 13, I didn't have therapy. I didn't have the resources that are now available to really help us overcome something like that. So I have decided to be the person that I needed back then. So that means I have to share my story. And that is how I got here today. So I'm super excited for the opportunity and I'm grateful.
Absolutely. Thank you. But wow. So, okay, starting from the beginning, that is incredible. So for you, not only that you're a mom, because that's always like a testament to be able to live life while also being a parent is just never an easy thing to do. I myself am one too. So shout out to all the parents out there. But I think I definitely want to start with that. So I think that's like an incredible, part of your story. So, and I love that you said too, that you're currently the person that, you wish you would have had, in your past and all of that. So starting with that, being a pandemic mother, What was that even like? I'm sure a lot of us are
Oh,
curious, like, what was that? Or like, and how'd you get through? Did you have people virtually helping? Like, just what was that like? What was
it
that
was
process?
extremely traumatic. So I was actually only 29 weeks when my water broke. So I never thought I was going to be a part of, those people struggling with having nurses and doctors coming in and you being scared that they're going to bring the virus in. It was really, really scary. So after my water broke prematurely, I thought I could go back home. It was my first baby. I had no clue. And they were like, you're going to be in the hospital until you have this baby. I'm like, she's not due until May. This was March. So I was confused, like, what's going on? But the doctors and the nurses were amazing, but just having that fear, she was actually born the 21st, which is the day the country shut down. That's when the roads were empty. The hospital was empty. Like it was crazy. And the anxiety and just the fear. And then just, knowing my daughter she was too young. She was 30 weeks when they actually took her out. I had a C-section. And that alone was traumatic because I had a whole birth plan, natural water birth, no meds, aromatherapy, crystals, none of that happened. Okay. So that would be my step one advice to new mothers, pregnant mothers. Like, it's okay if your birth plan does not go as planned. Okay. But just being in the hospital, we actually stayed for 42 days. So I moved right from the birthing room, which I didn't birth in there because I had a C-section, but the birthing room to the parenting room. And until they released my daughter, I lived in that hospital 42 days. I slept in that bed. I was in her room in that chair praying. That is the closest that I've ever felt to God because my family was not able to be there, just her father. And then, he also had a son, so he would have to leave to go see his son. And then it was just me. And, she actually had what was called neck. So that should have killed her. That was like a hole in her intestine. And she didn't need surgery. They found blood in her stool with so many things that happened. And they all happened while I was alone. And that just showed, my testament that God wanted me to know that I don't need anybody else but him, not even her dad, not my parents. No one could be there for me during that time but God. And that is what got me through that. And then watching sermons on the iPad with Sarah Jakes Roberts, that's TD Jakes' daughter, her and her husband. I kid you not, them two plus God, that is what got me through 42 days in the NICU with my baby, who was now completely healthy.
Wow. And I do agree that Sarah Jake Roberts always brings that word. So yeah, it's powerful. If you
Member of the delegation, okay?
absolutely. But wow, so that is incredible. And I think it is so amazing that it just takes these, incredible, but also like unexpected situations to really like test your strength. I'm sure you did not go into that situation, like you said, thinking it
No.
was going to go that way. But also it just, like, as you mentioned, it gave you that evidence though, and definitely showed that you are able to stand on your own 2 feet, despite, any obstacle that you may face, including this one, which you
Yep.
definitely did not anticipate nor plan in that way. So
Not
I
at all.
definitely think that was incredible. Right. But so speaking of so your mom now to a healthy baby, yay, who's all good and all that. Now I'm curious if you could take us back to a little bit about you though, like, the child, before this wonderful, wonderful woman that we're seeing now,
Yes.
the mom. You tell us a little bit about like, childhood upbringing, like what did
Mhm.
that world look like? Did you also have that confidence level? Did it take time to build, what it did look like?
I did not have that confidence level. So my parents were teenagers when they had me. My mother was 16 and my father was 18. So them being so young, they didn't really know, what they were doing. They had support just from my dad's side of the family, but it's still, when you become a parent so young, you're growing up with your children. So the sad part about that is, me and my mom are more like sisters than, mother and daughter. And, so I would move with my mom and then I would get frustrated with her and then I would go back to my dad and then back and forth. So, my whole childhood was just really unstable, unfortunately, to have to say it like that. I moved around, back and forth, back and forth. And my mom, I was the oldest, obviously, she had other children. So I became like that in-house babysitter. So I've been raising kids my whole life. And one thing that I'm really proud of is I was the first person in my family on my mom's side to break that generational curse of becoming a teenage parent. That was something that in my mind, I was like, not me. Okay, not me. But just as far as like confidence level, I was like the kind of kid, I was heavy when I was young. So, I got picked on, I was dark skinned, and at the time, dark was not in. Okay. So, getting called fat, black, and ugly, all those things. So I had a lot of trauma just from other classmates and, my mom not having healthy relationships with her family and just kind of helping her cope through her trauma. So I was more so like her therapist, even though I needed someone to be there for me. And my dad's real chill, cool, laid back. You really don't hear much. He doesn't say much, but he's always that constant, stable parent when you need him. Like, you can always count on him to be there, but he's just very quiet. So my parents are polar opposite. And so just my childhood, it was just, I was grasping for something. I wanted what my classmates had. They had both of their parents in the home. Now, granted, I don't know what inside of that home looked like. It might have been trauma. I have no idea, but just from what I had, I wanted a stable life. And unfortunately, me trying to get that led to me being sexually assaulted.
And unfortunately, that is like an unfortunate transition into what I was gonna ask next. And I'm like, I hate to have to take you there and all
No,
that.
let's go there. Let's go there.
Yeah, but if you're, ready, I was gonna ask. So unfortunately, I know you did overcome a lot though. So I'm just glad to hear that, as a grounding tool, let's remember that, you were on the other side of it and all of that. But I am curious, unfortunately, what do you, what that looked like and how that was, what part of that?
Absolutely. So I have an ebook coming out. So I'm not going to give all the tea, okay? Because I want y'all to sign up, join my wait list for the ebook. Hopefully I'll have it ready by the end of this month. But I will just give a high level of kind of what that experience looked like for me. So I was 13 years old, and my mother was married, and she found out that her husband had impregnated someone. And we actually originally we were in Texas. We were stationed in Fort Hood. So that's Killeen. And that's actually where my trauma or my assault happened. But we had moved from Texas and went to Missouri because he was stationed there. And, after she found out that, her husband had been unfaithful, my mom just crumbled. She thought he was her saving grace, the one to come and help her overcome all the other crappy guys that had caused her trauma and pain. But unfortunately, he just added to it. And it was kind of like that last straw for her. So she wasn't able to eat. She wasn't able to cook. She wasn't able to take care of me or my other siblings. Once he left the home, she just crumbled. So that's when I had to step up, and I became everybody's mom at that point. And at the age of 13, I don't even know how I comprehended what that responsibility level looks like. Now that I'm an adult looking back at 13-year-old kids, I'm just like, geez, that's so early. That's so young. You don't even know anything. You don't know anything. So basically what happened is my mom was like, do you want to go back to Texas? That's where we just were. We had lived there for a few years. We had an amazing church family that we had left. And, I said, heck yes. I would have two parents. I was going to stay with the pastor and the first lady of the church. And the way that they loved each other, it was just something that was crazy. Like, you looked at them and that's what you wanted. So if I had the opportunity for them to parent me, I'm taking it. I'm taking it. And so, my mother drove my 3-year-old brother and I think she was 6 months, my 6-month-old sister, to Texas. And we moved in with the pastor and the first lady of the church that we had previously gone to before we were stationed in Missouri. And unfortunately, my mother did not know that their 26-year-old son was in the home as well. So that was just a piece of information that was left out until we got there. And he was like, hey, So for me, I was excited because not only do I have two parents now, but now I got a big brother. Oh my God, because I was the oldest from all of her siblings. So for me to go from doing everything in the home, taking care of everybody else, and now I just get to go be a kid, that seemed like heaven on earth. And we know how that turned out. So unfortunately, he did make his way in my bedroom a few times. And I did not tell anyone because I was a little confused about what the whole situation was. I even thought I was still a virgin. I remember asking him the next morning after his first time in my room, am I still a virgin? And he was like, yeah, of course. I was like, oh, okay. So, I was so young. I wasn't really able to comprehend everything that had took place. And even to this day, as I try to sit down and like remember like what it actually felt like, and, you know, was I in pain? Like my brain has blocked all of the specifics. Like, I don't remember what it felt like. I don't remember if it hurt. I remember like the overall. So it was really rough to have to kind of come out with everything. But the only way I came out was I contracted an STD from him. And that is how they found out. I told, you know, the first lady of the church, I'm like, you know, Mama, I need to go to the doctor. Something's not right, you know? And so she took me to the doctor, and, you know, that's when they let me know, like, oh, we got an issue. And so it kind of went from there. So that's kind of how everything came out. And it wasn't just like a one-time thing. It was a multiple occasion, you know, and I actually started resenting my mother while I was there. She would call. I didn't even want to talk to her on the phone, just because I'm like, when I needed you, you know what I'm saying? You're not here. And she had no idea what was going on. And I actually never told her. The pastor's wife called her and told her. So one day she just pops up and I'm like, what are you doing here? And then that's when all hell broke loose.
Oh man. So yeah. And I appreciate you, you know, sharing that part, you know, and indulging us in that. But also, wow, that's definitely, I mean, there's just so much about that that's like, you know, super incredible, super powerful, and super unfortunate at the same time, because it's like, it's everything you said, because unfortunately, that's what we know about abusers, is that they take advantage. I mean, you were literally so excited. And
I
so
was
like,
so excited. I'm like, oh my God, a big brother.
right.
He was older. So I'm like, yeah, like ain't nobody gonna mess with me. Cause remember, I said I was bullied in school because I was the oldest. So I had no one who could protect me and all that stuff. So I literally thought everything that I had desired in regards to having a stable family was happening for me.
Absolutely. And I just think like, and who would fault you for thinking so? You know, you're seeing something that you never had, you're getting stability, unfortunately, in places that you had not had before. So, you know, it does seem very enticing. And I just think, of course, what's unfortunate here is that, you know, you should have been able to do that safely, securely, yeah, and grow in that excitement. But unfortunately, he saw an opportunity
and he took
to take advantage of that. Absolutely. And then that's what we keep trying to remind too, is that it's not the myth that we always hear. It's not the creepy dude in the alley. It's not. It's somebody you know. It's
absolutely. And for me, I think I actually accepted some shame and some guilt, because it wasn't like a hold down, punch you in your face, I'm choking you type situation. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all. And I think a lot of times when we think about sexual assault, we think of, you know, the creepy guy in the alley, or you're being pinned down, you're screaming at the top of your lungs. Like, that wasn't the experience for me, just because I didn't quite know what was going on.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I agree. And then I just feel like too, and the person who took it, not only advantage of that, the fact that they had access to you, and the fact that you had trust in them, you know, why would you have ever wanted to question that to begin with? I mean, there was no reason for you to do so. It actually probably would have looked odd. So what's funny is if you would have looked at him with a side eye from the beginning, they would have said, well, why would you do that? This is somebody, you know, this is our home. We welcomed you in our home. How dare you, like, you know, say that our son is not someone to be trusted? Like, absolutely. So, right. So I just definitely think that it shows incredible like awareness that we need to make sure we remind ourselves, unfortunately, that, you know, can happen. And then I think the other powerful and just unfortunate part, you know, collateral damage in it too, was that, you know, your relationship with your mom took a hit, because, you know, even though she was unaware of it, it's just, of course, naturally you're going to have those feelings towards her, because she's the person that put you in that situation, you know, whether she knew
because you weren't able to deal with your emotions and your trauma. And because I said yes, because she did ask me, she was like, do you want to go live with, you know, so-and-so? And I'm like, yes, you know, I didn't think twice about it. I thought that was my opportunity and my shot to really be a kid. And that's really just deep down, like all that I desired to have was just a normal childhood. And it was the total opposite.
Right. No, incredibly. And then for it to only come out that way, because what's interesting is that I was going to ask that next. I was going to say, wow, with all of that happening, how did they end up finding out? Since, you know, because like you said, not only had you not shared because, you know, you were still making sense of what was happening and going on, but, you know, as a result, you also hadn't fully accepted what was going on, but you didn't know what you had to accept. I mean, how are you accepting something that you cannot understand? So like, you're still making sense of the entire situation. So for you to have shared that that's the way is just incredible. And I'm also kind of like, you know, as unfortunate as that was for you to have contracted that, it's like, well, it kind of saved your life a little bit. It's just unfortunate that it had to be that way, because unfortunately you might have continued to carry that silence had it not been some kind of overt.
Or it could have been a baby. I mean, imagine that.
Absolutely.
Imagine that. It could have been.
Right.
It could have been.
It definitely could have. And unfortunately, and that's the other thing too, that, society is really good to also point fingers at that too. There are women out here and there, different people who have had babies in that situation. And it is incredibly hard for them. And even when parenting is already not an easy thing to do, as we both already have shared, and it can happen in, like unexpected ways. It can, traumatically, like you said, even with your situation, even though that was a healthy situation, when it happened, it was traumatic. Like you mentioned, I mean, literally the world was going through an entire change. I mean, that none of us saw coming.
I still haven't bounced back from that all the way. Like I still
and then I guess it doesn't help that we're still in the pandemic.
It's still going on. That's the thing. Like it's still not over. So when can I process? Like when can I take my mask off?
Right.
Because in my head it's still on.
I agree. And that's what I think it is interesting, because we are kind of all acts like, go back to work, like go back to being people, but this is still going to keep happening. So like, I need you to go ahead and perform. So so if anybody out there too is like, struggling with like anxiety or like, any of those stressful feelings, we're here to tell you that you're not alone. And that you're not wrong for that. You are not wrong, because this isn't an easy thing. Like we're all trying to make sense of it. We would like the world to return back to normalcy, but that's the other thing, is that unfortunately normal is going to look different now.
Normal looks different. And I think honestly, the quicker people accept that normal is no longer, then I think we'll be able to really come together as a whole, as a country, as a globe, and, be able to create what we want that new norm to look like. Because honestly, I don't want it to go back to the normal, because we were so disconnected. We were, against each other, especially during the time of, the presidency that we had. It was a very divisive time. So I'm not quite pushing for us to go back to normal. I'm hoping that we're able to create a new normal where we're more collaborative and just more empathetic towards everybody, because everybody's struggling with something. And regardless of what they're smiling about or posting videos about on social media, you have no idea what people are struggling with. And so in my ebook, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm really explaining what I went through, but I'm also explaining how I overcame with no resources, like how I really had to look inside and like have this conversation with myself as a 13-year-old child. Like, what do you want your future to look like? Because now you can no longer relate to other 13-year-old girls. Like, you're different now. You're different now. And, once that happened to me, my entire childhood was over. It was over. I'm an adult at that point. Once your innocence has been taken, that's what people don't understand. It's like dropping a plate. Once you break that plate, it doesn't matter how much glue, how much tape, like it's never going to be the same. And I think that's the beauty of it, is because just like we don't want to go back to what the world used to look like, I was able to create what I wanted my future to look like. And it wasn't pretty. There was more trauma, as you saw in my bio. It was trauma after trauma after trauma. And the reason that was is because I was nurturing my pain. That's all I thought about. That's all I thought about. That's the only thing that I had in my mind was, oh, this is mine. This is mine. And nobody can relate to me on this. And I'm going to continue to think about it. I'm going to hold on to it. But I was able to still excel academically. I still was able to get amazing jobs, high paying salaries. So that was good, but my heart still was hurting, and I still just wasn't where I needed to be as an individual. And I have to give the credit to my daughter, because once I became a mother, that's when everything clicked for me. That's when everything shifted. And I was like, no more. I changed my entire mindset from a mindset of lack and a mindset of nurturing my pain to a mindset of, F that, I'm about to live this life. You hear me? I'm about to create this life to be whatever I want to be. I'm going to travel. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to fill the needs that I see and be the person who I wish I had. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with this.
And I just love every single piece of that. I just want to take that part and those are the kind of messages we not only need to hear more of, but to tell ourselves. That's what I love about it. It's you really talking to yourself with, again, those messages that maybe you did not hear always, but that are so invigorating, that are so passionate, but also so necessary. Because even absent of trauma, which is pretty much almost impossible. There's, all people have probably experienced some kind of trauma in some way. And it's just, how they respond to it, like you said in yourself, and just, the resiliency really that gets tested along the way. But I think it's incredible when you could do that. So it's really just channeling that, not living there. Like you said, I mean, you could be a visitor, with your pain, but not living in that place.
Girl, I was in that pain for a long time.
paid rent for a little while.
Rolling around, okay?
Right.
Rolling around in it. And that's why I continue to attract more pain. I was in it.
Right. And actually, that's what I think I was going to say was interesting was I definitely think you absolutely broke generational curses. You're still doing it now with every new accomplishment. But I guess what I found an interesting parallel was that I heard that your mom, now that I've heard more of your story, of course, is that your mom had someone that was unfaithful to her, which unfortunately broke her, as you mentioned. Like it made her unable to really just show up, as a human being, but also as a mother. And so I know that in your bio at one point, there was someone who was unfaithful to you. And I'm just curious, like, did you, what did you make sure you did to make sure that you did not respond with, clearly the way your mom did? Like, was there anything in particular you did to like protect yourself? But like, since that was
absolutely for me, when the discovery was made, I was in the hospital with my daughter. So it was during that 42-day stretch. So yeah. So what really helped me was focusing on, okay, I don't matter right now. What matters is that my child lives. Okay. What matters is that she has the mother that I wish I had. And so at that time, I was able to like push aside everything that had happened. Yes, it hurt. Yes, I was devastated. Yes, I was betrayed. Like, yes, my feet collapsed, my knees collapsed, all of that. But at the end of the day, I remembered how I needed my mother to show up for me, regardless of what was going on in her life. And I made that personal decision that I'm going to do that for my daughter. She deserves that. She didn't ask to be here. You know what I'm saying? We wanted her. And I will do anything and everything in my power to give her the type of life that I desired. And that's exactly what I did. So there were days when I wasn't able to go into her NICU room. So that was my punishment for myself. If I knew that my energy was off, if I knew that I was just too sad, or I couldn't pull myself out of it, then that's how I would punish myself, was I wasn't going to see her. Because babies, especially NICU babies, they go off of energy. They go off of like your spirit. They need your warmth. They need your love. And if I wasn't able to provide that at that time, I was not stepping foot in that room. And so that helped me overcome it quick, because I wanted to see my baby. Okay. So I'm like, look, I'm gonna worry about it later. Let me do my energy check and go in here and be the mother that I now am.
Wow. And I think too, the other thing that we had, or that you had touched on, but I definitely want to highlight is just the power of that, and just like, positive thinking, being able to do that. But also you mentioned your brain. And so like at one point you said that when you, had faced the trauma, there are parts now that are blocked, for you, that you're unable to retrieve, which I'm glad you don't see that as, like something wrong with you, because it is very much a normal part of it. And I'm sure we've touched on it before, but I always love, going back to that, because again, the brain is a muscle, you know what I mean? Yep. And it needs that constant like practice. It needs that, constantly work at it. And so like what you feed it is what it will become, so I just think, right. So I think, and I definitely want to give you for to touch on that, because I think you've clearly done that, you know what I mean, with all of it. But I think it's always wonderful to be able to remind, anybody, who might be thinking about that or struggling with that. It's not a bad thing. And it's actually your brain protecting you, Yes. So like some of those memories you probably don't want to retrieve, and it's honestly too much. So sometimes your brain is like, you know what? No, I think this is going to be too much for you. I'm gonna go ahead and protect you. I know that might be incredibly frustrating for you not to be able to pull that memory, but I got you. This is me trying to help you and to help you to be able to still live a great life without you having to, retrieve all of those things. So I'm just curious, how you continue to refocus for you, like how you're able to keep things sharp, and, anything you want to touch on with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I do is I really meditate. I take that time, I light my candles. I'm not like deep into it. I'm kind of new to it, to be honest with you, but just taking that alone time where I'm able to just turn on my fireplace, light my candles, and just center myself. And that's when stuff starts coming back to me. And, I always kind of have this conversation. I call her my inner, my inner, that's my girl. She's the one who got me through it. And so I talk to her and I'm like, okay, for this ebook, I want you to bring back more memories for me, like allow me to be able to access those details. Because one thing I really want to mention, like this is my whole slogan campaign, is remove the secrets and share the details. Remove the secrets and share the details. And the reason that I'm so passionate about sharing the details is because we have glorified sexual assault. We have become so desensitized to it. When we hear hey, I've been sexually assaulted. They're like, okay, what are you doing to help X, Y, and Z? No, baby. Let me tell you, your cousin Eddie, okay, forced me to do X, Y, and Z. Until we are able to share those details, we're really not holding our offenders accountable. And as long as we just continue to sweep it under the rug, especially in families, especially in churches, like that was the pastor's son. That was the pastor's son. Let's really think about that. Let's hold that in. Let's hold that. This is a church that I was involved in before we moved. I was involved, and it was a Sabbath keeping church. So we were separate from everybody else. We went to church on Saturdays. We didn't eat pork. We didn't wear pants. We didn't wear jewelry. It was a very strict church. So for something like that to happen, it was just mind boggling. It was mind boggling. And up until recently, like I've been kind of brushing over the details and just sharing like, yep, at 13, I was sexually assaulted by the pastor's son in my church. That's it. But it's not until y'all hear he came into my room. It's not until I shared those details that I'm going to be able to help pull on those heartstrings of other people to allow them to want to join this movement and make a change. Now that I'm a mother, we have to protect these children. 1 in 4 girls will experience sexual assault. That's too much. That's too many. That's too many. And until we share those details and expose these secrets and expose these offenders and put a face to it, like, look at my face. Until we put a face to it, Melissa, it's not going to change, and it's going to continue. And so I have to do my part. And by me writing this ebook, and this is just step 1, by me talking about it on podcasts and me posting about, what I'm going through, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm getting 1 and 2 likes and maybe 3 or 4 DMs. But that's because people aren't comfortable, because sharing the details make people uncomfortable. And that's exactly what I'm going to continue to do. I'm not going to change my strategy because it's uncomfortable. It's something that I had to live. So I should be able to share those details to make sure that that's not happening to my little cousin, to make sure that's not happening to your little cousin, because that's the only time that people care, in my opinion, is when it hits home. Yeah. Absolutely. So your brain definitely protects you from those things. But I have that conversation with my inner, and I'm like, okay, allow me to access some stuff for this book. And she has brought some things back. Wow. She has brought some things back for me.
And it's just awesome that you like, well, and again, just incredible that can even happen, if you just, because it's really, like you said, it's kind of just giving yourself that permission, honestly, and opening that door that's allowing it to then happen. Some, unfortunately, I think either have not done that all the way. And again, it's nothing to beat yourself up over. You know what I mean? If we're talking to anybody that's thinking like, well, I haven't been able to do that, you might just not be in the right space yet.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Takes time, years.
Absolutely.
18 years for me. That's how long it's been. 18 years.
Which clearly wasn't yesterday. So it's been some time, and and it could take, whatever time it needs to for you, so like if we're saying, to anyone that might be out there, however long, there is no timeline.
No time limit.
Right. And we understand
you deal with it when you're ready, and not a second sooner, when you're ready.
Absolutely. And I think you also need to have the right supports, because obviously when that happens, it's going to bring rush, there's all these emotions and you want to be prepared. And so especially because I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is that when these traumatic things happen, you were not prepared. In that moment, you definitely were not. At least now you can try to regain back some of that control, unfortunately, that was lost in that moment. And now you do get to dictate. So, like when you said you meditate, even though you're new to it, you get to choose that. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, like it was before, you didn't have a choice in that situation. You were not asked. You were asked by your mother if you wanted to stay with somebody that you trusted. Absolutely. And I definitely still don't think that you made the wrong decision, because that sounds enticing to me too. I would have said yes as well. I don't see why not. But that the person that abused you obviously did not. There was not a conversation. And what's uncanny is that actually when you asked your abuser questions such as, do I still have my virginity? They said no.
He said yes. He was like,
yes.
Yep. I'm like, okay.
And right. And you had no reason to question that. But it's also just incredible because they knew that you were clearly seeking that like reassurance, validation. And obviously that you had no idea what was happening. For you to even ask that question, you obviously didn't know. But they were like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage of that. I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage of the fact that
and I'm gonna keep doing it.
Exactly. I'll take this as a green light instead of thinking that I shouldn't. And I love, like you said, that it absolutely, I do think it takes having these uncomfortable conversations. I definitely think that it absolutely takes taking a stand. You know what I mean? Even if it's alone, even if it's a lonely one. although I'm happy to stand with you on it. So, I mean, we can ride this, right away. But I do think that definitely it does take that. And I just think that it's really also great to give that language to it, because like you said, it's not something to be glazed over. Absolutely not. Like, I still cringe when I hear it, but I'm glad I do. I'm glad I'm not like to the point where I'm desensitized to where like I no longer react when I hear these stories. I don't want to get that's something that like, I don't want to be able to do. I still want to be able to have a human reaction to these things. And I feel like, and for others, even if your reaction, like you said, is to shy away from it, right? You're like, you know what, this seems like a bit much. I need to take my time and my space. Understood. But please, let's not act like it's not happening. You know what I mean? Yes. And let's please not give it the language that it deserves, because that was absolutely a predator. I mean, he was 26. Yeah. But he knew what he was doing. He knew that he saw you, and for you to have seen him as a brother and for him to have seen you as a sexual object. Oh, I'm just excited that I have regular access to something. In home. Right. I don't gotta go anywhere. Exactly. She came to me. So it's just incredible. Well, that's why we need to put the right language to it. We need to have that right conversation with it and take it in the right direction that it needs to be taken, as uncomfortable as that may be. So I think it's just incredible that you're doing that. I definitely think the ebook is just incredible. But even that, so I know you dipped in that and said that. Did you I'm just curious, so when you did decide to do it, was it just an idea that came to you? Did anybody encourage you? Did anybody help you to write it? Did you write it completely on your own? How was that?
Yeah, so as you see in my bio, I am an entrepreneur and I do lashes and brows. But I joined this mentoring program, and they're really just helping us to scale our business to the next level. And, I started thinking about my business options and, how can I grow this lash business? And as they were giving us more instructions and more things to look at on, start creating digital products. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to create a digital product and I'm going to raise awareness about something, it's not going to be eyelashes. I'm going to talk about something that really matters. They told us, talk about what you're comfortable with, talk about something that you're an expert in and about. Well, I'm an expert in trauma. Okay. Am I a licensed therapist? No, but I have had more than enough trauma, and I have, tried to find ways to still, pull myself out of that rut. And I'm like, you know what? Other people need to hear this. So they told us, my mentors were like, you know what, talk about something that you're passionate about and package it up, and then look in the market, figure out what's missing. And so I joined some different sexual assault groups on Facebook. That's actually how I met Eileen. So I joined some different groups, and, as I'm looking at the posts that these people are putting in there, everything is obviously negative, because obviously our situation is negative, but, misery loves company. And if that's all we're focusing on is feeding our pain, nurturing the pain, we're going to continue to get that. And I'm like, okay, people need somebody to be like, okay, yes, that happened, but what's next? What can we do to get you through that? What can we do to let you see the inner power and the inner strength that you have, so that you can also start working in the community or whatever and trying to make sure that it doesn't happen to someone else. And so I couldn't push that. I couldn't push for other people to do that until I did it and I owned my own truth. So here we are.
Wow. And I'm so glad that we are, I'm saying, to be able to have that, and to be able to have not only your guiding, the wisdom, but all that, and just to be able to, continue to grow in that and, grow this community, really, what I mean? With, genuine people who get that. And I just think that's what it's going to have to take, unfortunately. It's just people who really do get it, have been through these different situations, can bring that perspective, but then can also continue to drive it forward, what I mean? And what we're going to do, like you said, because even with, with trauma, you can stay stuck in it. That's definitely one thing, but also with this movement, we can stay stuck too. We want to be able to propel. We want to be able to see changes, like you said, occur. We want to be able to see more, laws happen, more changes in the, justice system. We want to take it as far as we can, but it's definitely going to take these steps first. So I think that was definitely great advice. I'm glad you joined that mentoring group, because that was definitely great insight that they gave you, but also the entrepreneurship. I actually was going to ask you about that as well. So not every day that we have somebody on the show who, not only, has done all these great things, is overcoming in such an incredible way, but also is, does do that, is an entrepreneur, has their own business and all of that. I'm definitely curious, what's it like, in the life of an entrepreneur? What does that look like? How do you balance it all? Any advice for people that are considering it? What do you have in that one?
Okay. So what I have is, entrepreneurship is extremely rewarding, but it never stops. Your brain never stops. You are always thinking of the next promotion, the next sale, the next way to scale your business. How can I get people in my chair? Like, it's very humbling. It's humbling because this is you. Like, so if I just take it back to my previous employment, I was an HR manager. I was a supervisor in a manufacturing business, and then in e-commerce. So I was a probation officer for sex. I was a sex offender probation officer. I forgot that too. Let's talk about that. But from all those things, I always was like top performer. I'm the person they're coming to get things done, but then you're always underpaid, undervalued, underappreciated. And I'm like, why can't I do this, use my same drive, I call it my tiger. That's how I am at work. I'm a tiger. Why can't I be a tiger for myself? Why can't I build my own dream? And so I cold turkey. I didn't have anything lined up, which I'm a Scorpio. So we are very calculated. We are planned people. So me to go cold turkey, that was out of line for me. So, it's been rough. It was rough. But once I changed my mindset, and I have to keep going back to that, because that's when the blessings and the opportunities started flowing. When I started speaking positive things over my business, I started saying exactly what I wanted to happen. Okay, I want 12 clients this week. I want 12 clients this month. However I presented it, like once I put it in the atmosphere, in the universe, and I believed it, my schedule is booked. I'm booked. And I'm like, oh my God, look at this. And now I want to take it to that next level. Like, okay, I want to do these digital products. So whether it starts with my ebook, whether I do another ebook, maybe I'll start doing master classes. Maybe I'll become a life coach. Like, I haven't gotten deep into what that looks like, but just being an entrepreneur, it gives you that drive and that motivation to build your own brand. See what the issues are, see what's missing out there, and then go fill that gap and fill that need. So there are so many ideas that people have, but we're just scared, and that's okay. But 2022, we're taking away that power from fear. This is the time to boss up. Let's look fear in the eye, okay, and say no more. You've had enough time. You've had enough time, and now I'm going to move differently. And in order to move differently, it has to start in the mind.
That's not a word right there. So I hope everybody's listening, taking that down, because if you needed a sign, this is your sign. But I do agree. And absolutely, because fear can be crippling. It definitely can be crippling. It can keep you in the same place. It can definitely, make you question whether or not you should. And even in the midst of it, like you said, you could be on the brink of success. It could be looking you right in the eye, but that doubt will creep in, the fear will be there, and it'll make you question whether or not you should be there. And imposter syndrome is real. I'm sure you've also thinking that you don't really deserve what is happening to you. But also sidebar, I'm also Scorpio, so I totally see why we connect. Hey.
When's your birthday?
Oh, October 29th.
Oh, so you the October Scorpio. I'm that November Scorpio.
Oh,
we still a little different. We connected, but so my stepmom is October 31st. So we still connect, but me and her, we still a little different. I'm like, y'all October Scorpios, a little different.
We are. Well, I was thinking, I was like, I can see some, but I agree. I actually do agree. I definitely think there's some there and some aren't. But I also think it's funny because my mother, she never really was a fan of Halloween. So I'm like, Mom, really? And this is where my birthday's at? Yeah, exactly. Like
your parties could have been lit. Okay, your birthday party could have been fire.
Exactly. So I'm trying to, take advantage of that as an adult, to make up for lost time. So I'm trying to, take advantage in that way. But I do agree that it's definitely that drive though. So, definitely like those characteristics. And I'm glad you didn't give up, because.
Me too. Right? I almost did. Let me tell you, I was right here.
See, that's how
especially with the ebook. Like, I started getting severe anxiety when I'm like, oh my God, like it was 2 days before I decided to go public and start talking about, my situation, just to see what interest was out there. And 2 days before my deadline to release my first post, like I start shaking in my boots, shaking in my boots. And I was like, oh my God, like I was really scared. And I was like, that lets me know that I need to do it. Before, that fear would have stopped me. Before, that fear would have been like, okay, let me just try something else. Let me ease my way into it. Let my first ebook be about my NICU experience. I almost did that too. I was right there.
Something safer.
But I'm done with fear. I'm done with fear. It doesn't, I'm not saying don't be scared, because sometimes fear is what we need to push us to that next level. But I'm saying don't let fear penetrate your heart and stop you from making those steps to get you to the life that you dream.
Exactly. See, that's why I just keep so many like tweetable things that we are all sharing. So like, and just gems that we have. But no, I completely agree. And I'm glad because that's what I've heard. I definitely haven't heard that the entrepreneurship journey is very easy. And so everybody, because if that was the case, everybody would be doing it.
Everybody
And
would do
there's a
it.
reason, absolutely, that it
Mhm.
isn't, it's not the path that, is traveled by most. But I definitely think it's a worth it one. So I love that, it's allowed you to become an authority, but you open the door. So I am going to ask the question, as a probation officer for sex
Mhm.
offenders, was that triggering? Like, how did we? Because yeah, you did kind of say that kind of quick, and I was just like, well,
Mhm.
how on earth did you
I
do that?
wasn't triggered at all. Let me tell you
Okay.
about this. That was the best job that I've had, best and the worst. It was the best because I was able to have a direct impact on these offenders. Like, and I was 22. So they looked at me like, who is this little girl? Oh, I fixed that real quick. I fixed that real quick. That's when you had to let that Scorpio come out. Like, don't let my age fool you. I will send you back to prison. Okay. Let's just get that out the way. I will send you back to prison. And it really, my experience being a sexual assault survivor helped me while I was in that role because I was able to pick up on my BS meter was really good. So I was able to sort through and weed through the things that they were trying to glaze over. And I'm like, nope, tell me more. Nope, what really happened? And, I actually did home visits. I would go to their home. I would go through their things. I would make sure they didn't have a little girl locked up in the closet. Like, so for me, when I was in that role, I felt like I was really helping. I was really making a difference. And I still treated my probationers with respect. I still treated them as a human being because they had already done their time. But this is the time where they're released back in the community. So I want to make sure that they have the resources and the tools to overcome whatever urges they had to cause them to do what they did. So I would set expectations for them. I'm like, okay, so for your next visit, you need to apply to 5 jobs and bring it to me. Like, don't come in here empty handed. You might as well miss your appointment. Like, don't come in here not prepared. And once they saw that I was going to hold them accountable, like I was going to set a goal, hold you accountable to it, and then we were going to have another goal. Then I was like really successful. I was really successful. And the only reason I left that job was the pay. It was poverty pay. It was poverty pay. And I'm like, I got student loans. Like, so I left and became an HR manager. And that really broke my heart because I felt like I wasn't making an impact like I used to. Yeah.
No, that totally makes sense. And unfortunately, that's the other thing that happens is that a lot of these jobs where you're actually making an impact, you're not getting paid a whole
You
lot.
ain't getting paid.
You're not. So it definitely helps more to, be able to develop your own thing like you did in your respect and just kind of like, being able to forge that path, you know what I mean, to make it. And so still be able to have the impact just in a different way. It looks
Yeah.
different now, but that is incredible. I definitely think that that's, it's definitely interesting to hear, you know what I mean, that on that side, there was still impact that could be made and that it was an incredible way to show that despite having faced that trauma, like you could still be a resource to others. And it's just exactly what we also talk about, that is why that the other myth that we hear too, that a lot of like victims then go on to like victimize, like not the case. I mean, you would never want other people to feel, how you felt. And if anything, you'd rather like help other people.
Help them overcome it quicker.
Yeah,
exactly.
Amen.
And that's the whole reason I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm sharing the details because I don't want it to take that other 13-year-old girl that happened to 18 years. Maybe it can take her 5 with my help. Maybe if she reads my ebook, it can take her 3 years. I don't want people to have to take the same amount of time that it took me by not having the resources and my parents being so young and not knowing how to navigate such a tumultuous situation.
Absolutely. And I definitely think and that's why it's needed. It's needed to have those kind of like different perspectives and for somebody to see themselves, like being able to maybe see themselves in you, but then also know that there is life on the other side, that there
life
is
on the other side.
Yes,
that life is beautiful, baby. That life is beautiful. You hear me?
See, and that's what I was going to ask you next. So speaking of that, I mean, are there other things on the horizon? You ain't got to tell us all, just like with the ebook, what I mean, keep it under wraps what you want to, but just, are there other great things that you're looking forward to? Are there any like great, positive things that you can share with us that look good, now, or like, what's life looking like right now these days and maybe in the future?
Yeah. So life is really good. Like I said, my business is finally starting to gain some momentum. So I'm really excited about that. But most of all, I'm just excited that I've taken my power back. I used to give so many people access to me, and I used to give so many people the opportunity to share their opinions about what I should be doing. And I was seeking that validation, just like I was all those years ago. I was seeking that validation, whether it was from my parents or whether it was from friends. And so just being on this mindfulness journey and being on this journey of realizing who I am and then being able to connect with my inner spirit, that right there is something that I'm excited about, because now I've unlocked my true potential and I'm finally in alignment with my path and with my purpose. So I'm being able to take my pain and turn that pain into purpose. That excites me. That excites me. So I have no idea what's coming next. I have no idea what I'm going to get into next, but I know that it's going to be amazing just because it's my authentic self. It's me showing up as me, not putting makeup on, not wearing my mask, not the COVID mask, like the I'm okay mask. Like not me wearing my mask, but me showing up as my authentic self. So whether I have a bad day because I don't wear my crystals or whether I have a great day, whatever it is, like I owe it to myself and I owe it to those people who trust me to help them on their journey, to show them that it's okay to be authentic. It's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to be amazing. Take those trips. Don't let COVID keep you in the house depressed and stressed. Go on, put your mask on and go to Mexico. Okay. Whatever you need to do to make you feel better. Like that is what I'm an advocate of. So I don't have specifics on what's coming up. Like I said, the ebook will be ready by the end of the month. So I'm just excited to see how many lives can be impacted and changed by that. And then it's only up from there.
Amen. And also for those who don't know, we had like an inside joke at the beginning before we started recording. We talked about our crystals. So yes, I'm wearing mine, got yours.
Ooh, yes.
So yes, exactly. So we totally connect on that too. And I think that is what's fun about this or anything like this is like when you see people out. So I will have whole conversations, right? Yep. I've definitely had people say, "Oh, what kind is that?" And we have the whole, and it's just awesome because sometimes, like we also carry other things like emotional scars. You don't see those. Those are not easy. You don't walk around with your little scarlet letter and people are like, "Oh, did you face trauma in your past?" Me too. That's not how that goes.
You would never know. You would never know. You could be best friends with somebody and then it's just something that never came up. You would have no idea.
Right. You exactly. There's never any time. But I love that when there's something also even on the positive front where like you can see, something that brings you together, that shows that, you have that similar mindset, you have that similar drive, and that, there are ways to do it. But I also love like what you said is that, so, maybe you are like us, you like your crystals, but it could also be something else, whatever it is. Yes. Maybe it is your quiet time. Maybe it's just, lighting your candles when you need them, or having your smell goods, whatever.
A walk outside in nature, like anything.
See, I didn't even mention that one because it's cold. It's been cold for me in Ohio.
So are you in Ohio?
I am in Ohio.
Where you at, girl?
Yes, I am. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Yes.
Girl, I'm from Akron. I'm gonna take a trip. You ain't said nothing but a thing.
That's funny. Wow. Okay, so there we go. We're just literally just kindred spirit. We just yeah, I'm still in Ohio now. So it's been cold, but I agree. When it gets warmed up, I usually like to go outside. And so sometimes it's just something simple like that. But what I loved about what you said is that finding whatever that is for you. Yes. And don't let nobody define it for you. Because, you need to find out because your happy is going to look different than other people's happy. You know what I mean? Your journey looks different than other people's journey. And people can say what they want. They're going to always have input. But you definitely got to find it for yourself. You know what I mean? And whatever that looks like. And knowing, like you said too, whenever you're ready. Because, right, we run on our own timelines. And so whenever you get to that point, but definitely knowing that you deserve it, you know what I mean? And that you definitely are worth it. And so like, please don't let that trauma make you think that you don't, and so like,
absolutely.
That's what
One thing I want to add to that is like, if you have people in your lives that cause you angst, if you have people in your life that, I don't care if it's your mother, your father, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, like you are able to say access denied. You are able to stop them from having access and set those boundaries like, hey guys, we can't talk about this. Or, you can't talk to me this type of way. And you don't have to be rude with it, but you are able to stand up for yourself. We've been victimized enough. Enough is enough. Now is the time to set boundaries, relay those boundaries, and don't defer from those boundaries. So, I just want people to know, like, you don't have to continue to subject yourself to emotional abuse or anything like that. You are able to take that access back and be like, access denied. You go fix yourself and then come back and talk to me. Because the way you're talking to me right now, it doesn't make me feel good. And that's something that I feel like we need to do more of. Assess the people in your circle. And sometimes you have to clean that circle up. And I know Drake has a saying, no new friends. I don't agree with that. New friends are what helps get you to that next level. find people who are interested in those positive things that you're interested in and help build your community and build your family with that. Family doesn't always have to be blood.
Exactly. That's another word. And I agree, because it's also what allowed us, right, for us to even be, like you said, you had joined the sexual assault group. You met Eileen. Eileen, has this great show, which thank you, Eileen, for letting me share with you. And so, and all of that. But I agree, sometimes it's taking that step, and being able to try that new thing, meet those new people, get that new community and form that new family, like you mentioned, because yes, agreed. It doesn't always have to be the family that, you were raised with, that created you. It could definitely be your new unit. And really that family, who says that it has to, stay the same people over time? You can have different people, different seasons, during different stages.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so as you continue to evolve, the people around you can evolve also. And you have the absolute permission to be able to do that. You have the permission to do whatever you want with your life, including that though, and whatever company you may have.
Access denied.
Amen. See, that's what we're going to use. That's another one. I got to start writing these down. Write this down. But so with that, I feel like I can talk to you all evening. But I do want to also give viewers an opportunity, if they want to connect with you, if they want to be able to learn more about you, definitely if there's details on the ebook where they're going to be able to get it, all that wonderful things, if you could tell us that before we end our time together.
Absolutely. So if you guys can find me on Instagram, I have a sexual assault page. I literally just started it last week, because that's when I started talking about my story. So everything that you're hearing is brand new. But on Instagram, it is Ending CSA. So Ending Childhood Sexual Assault. That is my Instagram name. If you guys find me on there, you'll see that I'm starting to make reels. I'm starting to make posts. And then if you click the link in my bio, it'll take you to my landing page. And that's where you can sign up to join the wait list for my ebook. So signing up is absolutely free. The first 25 people to sign up, you will get 50% off of my ebook when it drops. So definitely don't sleep on that. And you can also find me on YouTube at Royal Treatment by Rania. So find me on YouTube, find me on Instagram, Ending CSA. I also have another Instagram account, The Lash Healer 16. But I really want you guys to follow my sexual assault page, because that's the one that I feel like is really going to be the one that's revolutionary for me.
Absolutely. And if we're going to have that conversation, I think that's the way to do it, right? To engage in that, to have that, you'll have material there. You'll have this great, your great voice behind it. So definitely, I also encourage everyone to do the same, to just, go ahead and follow, but especially the Instagram, Ending CSA. So yes, let's definitely go look for it, be able to find it and all of that. So again, with that, Rania, it was absolutely a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. The pleasure was all mine.
So yeah, and any last words, any other encouraging messages you got? Or
last thing I got, you are amazing. Yes. This is just for all the viewers. I don't care if in your head you're telling yourself that it was your fault. It's not your fault. There was nothing that you could have done differently, but what you can do differently going forward is knowing that you're amazing, knowing that you have this power and this inner strength that is inside of you, and that this is your year to take your power back. We are no longer going to continue to just be survivors. This is our year to thrive and to thrive together. So I am just now building my Ending CSA tribe. I would love for you guys to join this tribe with me and find a way to really take a stand so that our children can be children. That's what they need. They need to be children and be protected. And that is what I'm trying to do at any cost and by any means necessary. So if anything that I've said today has related to you guys, if it's something that you're like, you know what, like, yeah, I want to rock with this girl want to rock with you too. So that's all I got.
And that's everything. So with that, I couldn't, I don't want to ruin a good thing. So y'all heard it here. Please take that message with you. And absolutely, if there's anything that resonated, I agree. Please make that connection as you see fit. So with that, thank you again. And thank you everyone for tuning in as always. And we will definitely catch you on the next one.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.